that curriculum was given to the teacher, was it what was being used in the school?
Curriculum is a term that is used to mean different things in the public. And so curriculum that the district adopts is really the standards. And so each teacher has an opportunity to approach instruction differently. In this case, we expect that teacher to use best practice in instruction, and click and play instructional model is not very expensive.
My question was not answered, so I'm going to ask you one more time. Was that click and play curriculum that you have issues with in place and being used in the school at that time?
I'm going to object to the form of the question. Click and play is not curriculum. That's what he just answered.
This is straight out of his evaluation. Mr. Peterson's reading to know whether he's doing a good job or not. How we can't understand it. How's he supposed to understand it?
I don't think that's an appropriate response to my objection.
Okay, so Attorney Haslam, I think what the problem is here is click and play is a description of the curriculum, not curriculum itself. And so I think there's a miscommunication in terms of how the question is being asked. Are you asking Dr. Garvey, was click and play type of curriculum being used in the district at the time in which Dr. Garvey was evaluating Mr. Peterson?
I'm going to set the foundation here.
Okay.
Again, read it exactly the way I read it before. Mr. Garvey says, under the section professional community, that Peterson gave a teacher a, and I quote, the words he used, I don't know what a click and play curriculum is, a click and play. Is that correct?
So, Attorney Haslam, if you don't know what it is, and you're asking a question about it, you might want to ask Dr. Garvey what he meant by click and play curriculum in order to ask the question.
Whatever it is that Mr. Peterson gave this teacher, is it something that administrators were giving teachers in the school within commonplace? I don't care what a click and play curriculum is, to be honest with you. I just want to know this thing that you're giving, or is it something that was being used, or is it a change you want to make?
Okay, so that wasn't your question before. So let's let Dr. Garvey answer that question.
Sure, the click and play curriculum was a descriptor about the type of instructional practice that this particular teacher was allowed to use.
Mr. Garvey, no, I'll say yes or no questions.
Okay, stop. The court reporter is not going to get an accurate record of what is happening here.
I can't let my witness run roughshod over me. If I ask him a yes or no question, he needs to answer yes or no.
Correct. Okay, so that's not necessarily the case, Attorney Haslam, if the answer is not yes or no. Let's try one more time. Ask your question, and if Dr. Garvey can answer it, he will do so.
I think we're going to move on from this question. There's another thing you say in this section. You say the thought is, I'm going to quote here, the thought is to ride it out until he retires, end quote. Did Principal Peterson actually tell you that rather than discipline or correct the teacher, he would wait until the guy just retired? Is that true?
The statement was more along the lines, he's going to retire at the end of the year.
So he was informing you that he was going to retire at the end of the year, is that correct?
Correct.
But you say, he told you that, you say, the thought is to ride it out until he retires. Is that what you said? That's what you wrote.
That was my observation as to what was meant by that statement.
So he didn't say that he was going to wait till the guy retired to fix this problem. That's what you thought he said. Is that correct?
The thought is to ride it out until he retires. Yes. I said we were not going to address the situation because he was retired.
And the question before I asked you if that's what Peterson actually said, and you said that's what you interpreted and how it came out of his mouth. Is that correct?
I would say that's true throughout our discussion.
You also say in this section that there's a difference in accountability between veteran versus less veteran staff. What makes a teacher a veteran and what makes a teacher a non-veteran? Because I've heard this talked about a little bit, so I'm curious.
Sure, my observation in visiting with staff members was really about that 10-year.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, sorry.
About that 10-year mark. Folks that had been in the district longer than 10 years. They reverse that, the folks that were here 10 years or less, were the ones observing and sharing with me concerns that the veteran staff were not held to the same accountability standards.
So there was a cutoff at 10 years, and those with over 10 years were kind of different accountability standards than those under 10 years, is that correct?
That's what it seemed to me.
Do you think that seems arbitrary?
The statement isn't arbitrary because that's what I observed. But yes, I mean, it was created as arbitrary because we didn't go to every single person to say, how do you feel about that?
Did you ever observe Peterson while he was delivering professional development to other staff members?
Limited.
Limited. Isn't that one of the things you wanted him to do more of?
I don't think I need to sit in the room to determine whether he's delivering professional development.
It's something you wanted him to improve on, though, correct?
Yes.
Which sessions did you observe?
I can't recall.
Do you think it's possible that you didn't observe any?
No.
In the next section here, meaningful engagement, you say, I'm going to say this verbatim here. I'm going to try my best to get everything right, so please bear with me. Quote, situations have come about where Mr. Peterson either does not know the answers to question, period. Instead of finding answers, comma, chooses to go along with others in the group, which confuses others when the correct answers are recorded. Did you write this?
I did.
Do you think anyone reading this would understand this?
That's the reason we confer after to make sure that there's clarity.
Do you think that Mr. Peterson clearly understood what you were talking about with this?
I did.
Do you think it's important to write clearly so that a reader can understand what you wrote?
Yes.
You sat on this for a month, right? Before you give it, first time you wrote it, you gave it to Mr. Peterson. Did you ever proofread it?
Did I ever proofread?
Did you ever proofread?
Yes.
You didn't catch this?
No, it's clear to me.
It's clear to you. Let me read this again, make sure I understand.
I'm going to object. Cumulative, argumentative, pointing out typos is not getting us anywhere.
Attorney Haslam, we can move on. If you don't understand it, you've made that point. If Mr. Peterson doesn't understand it, he can certainly testify to that. Dr. Garvey has indicated that he thinks it's clear.
Moving on.
Thank you.
Did you have specific examples of this behavior that you're talking about here?
I shared that at the time. I don't have them here tonight.
If I asked you what they were, could you give me an example?
Now the certainty.
Could you give Mr. Peterson an example?
When we discussed this, yes.
Did you write them down here?
No,
Did Mr. Peterson ever ask you for specific examples?
when we discussed those with the firm, so
Did Mr. Peterson ever ask you for specific examples?
I don't recall what order, whether I provided some, he asked for some, he shared some, I don't remember.
Do you recall even outside of this counseling session, Mr. Peterson reaching out to you and asking you for examples?
We had many conversations where we talked about specific examples, many of these things.
When he reached out to you and asked you for examples, did you provide them to him?
Absolutely.
Did you ever shoot him down and tell him basically no?
Not to my recollection.
When you provided Mr. Peterson with his reviews, did you expect him to succeed?
I did.
Did you ever think there was a chance that he couldn't meet your expectations?
Well, during some of the reviews, during some check-in times, I shared my concerns, and I did so in my notes as well.
Is it possible for you to answer this question yes or no? You can say it's not possible. I can move on.
It's not.
It's not possible to answer. Did Peterson, well, I guess, if you thought he was a poor principal, so much so that he should lose his job, don't you think there should have been more direct, specific, written guidance about what he had done in the first place that was so bad?
He was provided an evaluation, he was provided updates, and we visited about all of these schools informally. That's the process we use in education. It isn't one item, and non-renewals are different. It's all about fit.
Is it normal to have reviews that don't give anyone any specific examples?
Examples are in our conferences, and the an improvement plan works towards more specificity.
I think you answered all. Move on. So
Hold on. The court reporter is talking to the witness for a second. She asked a clarifying question. Attorney Haslam can't continue.
I think there's
Because you were talking. Okay, are we good? Okay, Attorney Haslam?
Yep. So the CISA 6 model now, I understand you're trained in CISA 6, correct?
Yes.
You're very familiar with it, correct?
Yeah.
Does the CISA 6 model have descriptions of exemplary performances and proficient performances?
Yes.
Does the evaluation system that you decided to switch to contain those?
In terms of the evaluation, it indicates whether he is meeting expectations.
It indicates whether he's meeting them, but again, my question is this, I'm going to say it again. I'll try and say it a little more clearly. The CISA 6 model that was in place prior to you using this system contained, you said yes, contained descriptions of what exemplary performance was and what proficient performance was. You answered that question, yes. It's a yes. I don't see those in your system here. Can you tell me if those are in your evaluation system?
Just during our conferences,
Just verbally.
we discuss each piece to make sure we understand what we're talking about.
So if a new teacher comes into you wanting to know how to excel at their job, how to make you happy, how to get good evaluations and keep their job, do they have to rely on verbal conversations with you, or can they go to the CISA 6, their teacher, they can go to CISA 6 and see what they're supposed to do, right?
I'm going to object to the foundation of the question. It assumes that this witness evaluated teachers. I think you need to lay the foundation for that.
You know what, Larry, Ms. Lubinsky, you're absolutely right. Let's use a different example. The new principal walks in here. Is he supposed to rely on just what you verbally tell him, or these examples, these descriptions of what good performance is and where to excel at his job? Or can he just like look at the form that you're going to use to evaluate it and tell what he's supposed to be doing?
I think both methods are equally effective.
If that new principal were getting a CISA 6, would he be able to take the evaluation, look at it, and see examples of what excellent performance is?
Yes,
If he looked at yours, would he be able to see that?
not necessarily.
Is that a no?
The exemplary is not included in the report here.
I don't see the proficient either.
Pardon me?
I don't see, CISA 6 has descriptions of exemplary and proficient.
Correct,
Yours has neither, correct?
correct.
Tell me, what date, you be a little rough on it if you need to be. Did you know, you talked about it a little bit, so I think you know the date. What date did you know Peterson would not be able to keep his job?
Objection. Assumes facts are not in evidence. Witness has no decision-making on whether Mr. Peterson can keep his job, and he cannot possibly testify to the board's intent or decision-making. I don't have any objection if you want to refer.
May I rephrase? At what date did you know that you would be recommending Mr. Peterson not keep his job?
I would say early this fall.
Early this fall. Was there a period of time when you asked Mr. Peterson if he had an attorney that the board's attorney could speak with in June?
Yes.
What was the purpose of that question?
I was asked that by the board's legal counsel at that time.
Were you aware of what the purpose behind it was?
I believe that the purpose was that the attorney wanted to discuss a separation agreement.
Meaning Peterson would lose his job or leave voluntarily, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to object to the form of that question.
Move on.
Also, just going to make sure that Dr. Kravit does not have the right to waive the attorney-client privilege, so to the extent that there would be any questions about conversations with legal counsel, I don't think that we should be going.
Understood. And just to be clear, Ms. Lewis, I'm asking what he asked Mr. Peterson about his attorney.
Understand?
Do you think it would be good leadership to make someone jump through hoops and think they're going to improve? Right, however many updates, there's no chance for them to keep their job and that's all said and done?
I do not think that's fair.
Not think that's fair. You think that would be more leadership?
I would.
Do you have any issues with having teachers or staff or administrators who are gay?
I'm going to object on relevance grounds.
I'm going to.
I think it's also highly inflammatory.
You asked a
Yeah.
very similar question.
Attorney Lubinsky, Attorney Haslam, I'm going to let you ask that question. Attorney Lubinsky, you did open the door on this one.
I'm going to repeat the question, Mr. Garvey. Do you have any issues having teachers, staff, or administrators who are gay?
No.
I understand you're a person who created the monthly board agendas for all these meetings, is that correct?
In conjunction with the president, yes.
Since you took over, have there been any changes to the format of these agendas?
Yes.
I noticed that the budget numbers report used to report the budget numbers, but they don't anymore. Is that a change that you made?
That is a format that I use, correct. I can't recall what was being used when Jeff was the intro. But when Steve Byrne was here, he did include it.
Is there a reason you don't include them?
That just has not been a format that's been used in any of my previous districts.
I also noticed that the anti-discrimination disclaimer that was on before you got here disappeared. Is there a reason that you took that off?
I guess I don't recall that because I didn't use the former, I didn't review it for that purpose. My preference is to always lead with the mission.
Understood. Have you ever heard anything from the board or anyone employed at Raymond School that you thought showed homophobic sentiments?
Objection, relevance.
This is very relevant, Ms. Lubinsky. Our entire case is that we're saying that all of this that they read is pretext to fire Mr. Peterson because he's a gay man.
Attorney Haslam, your question was way too broad.
Okay, I can hear that now.
Thank you.
I'm referring to any statements, either person, emails, phone calls, or even someone telling you something someone else said that was homophobic or showed anti-gay sentiments.
Objection, it's overbroad. Anyone in the world?
Yeah, okay, so you have to, you didn't say who or where it was coming
I said employed at Raymond.
Okay, so again, I think that's too broad.
Too broad.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard anybody on this board use that language?
No,
You've never heard anybody on this board say anything that you regard as being homophobic, discriminatory towards gay people?
not that I recall.
You ever seen it? You ever heard of the telephone or an email or any communication whatsoever?
Not that I recall.
Let me rephrase this again. Have you ever seen or heard, again, anything from a person on this board, maybe not that you, but that a reasonable person would think constituted anti-gay, discriminatory comments or statements?
I'm going to object to the form of that statement. He can testify to what he thinks. He can't testify to what other people think. He lacks foundation.
I will let Dr. Garvey answer that question.
I can't recall any specific.
If you had seen or heard someone using anti-gay language, discriminatory language, even someone on this board being referred, what would your response be?
Objection calls for speculation and complete hypothetical.
If you, I'll rephrase, if you heard someone on this board saying something that is homophobic or discriminatory, would you address it?
Yes.
How would you address it?
Objection, incomplete hypothetical, overly broad.
Would you tell the person directly to knock it off?
Yes.
If it was a member of the board, would it give you pause about some decisions of the board that were being made that you were enforcing?
Objection, overly broad.
Shut. Attorney Haslam, if you're going somewhere, why don't you?
Okay, let's go there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and show our pages here to, let's see if we can do this. All right, so let's go to '12, please. I'm going to put this up here. We wanted a video earlier, but we got this instead, so as we talked about. Is this an email from Gwen Keller to you, Mr. Wright?
Yes.
In this email is Gwen Keller talking about concerns with Mr. Peterson teaching health classes.
Yes.
Does she say intuitively, I thought that would be a concern as well, if you recall when we discussed it at a previous meeting? Is that correct?
It does say that.
Does she also say, can you please confirm if another adult is observing the class? And if so, who?
It does.
Has Mr. Peterson taught health classes at Raymond School before that?
I believe so, but I can't say that for sure.
There's another email I'd like to discuss with you too. Let's turn to 13. Is this an email from board member Gwen Keller to you?
Yes.
In this email, is she talking about the social learning curriculum?
Yes.
On the third paragraph of this email, does she say, the next topic coming down is considering pedophiles as a sexual orientation. Heaven forbid this topic be broached in front of our children. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you find that to be a discriminatory statement conflating pedophiles with gay people?
I don't.
You do not. So because you didn't feel this, you did not address Ms. Keller about this, is that correct?
We did address it.
You did address this. I didn't see that in the
Not for
email.
the reason. Not for the reason for statement.
Did you address the comment that pedophilia is going to be taught as the next sexual orientation?
Our conversation is about selecting curriculum. Our conversation is about selecting curriculum of present and not what people are talking about in other places or on chat rooms or those types of things. I don't read this as saying being gay is equal to pedophiles, because it's certainly not what I believe.
Do you think it's what she believes?
I'm gonna object.
I don't know that.
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna object, that calls for speculation.
You know, I've been here a long time and going through everything. One thing I'd like to say, I can see that you sign off all the emails the same way. You use a quote. You say it's not enough to do just what is required. Instead, one should do what is right. Is that correct?
It is.
When you saw these emails and you didn't do anything, you didn't say anything, you continued to oust Peterson without giving a thought as to the actual motivation behind it. Is that doing what is right?
Objection to the statement. It's not evidence. You're testifying again. It's also multiple.
Attorney Haslam, you might want to save that for your closing. Ask a question of Dr. Garvey or Reba.
Thank you, Dr. Kravit.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take 5 minutes. Court reporter needs to use the restroom. So do I. And then the board will have the opportunity to ask Dr. Garvey any questions, and then we will see if, yeah, 5 minutes. Got it. Okay, thank you. 5 minutes.